Okay, the geniuses will see us now.
I'm a pro.
He's very unprofessional.
Very unprofessional.
These are our newly arrived surgeons, Doctors Trowbridge and Greenbaum.
Doctor?
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 We're not doctors.
Are you sure they can handle this?
Oh, we can handle it. We're professionals.
You'll forgive us if we're not instilled with confidence.
Potentially unprofessional pieces of content.
The other guy who does this podcast wants to stay anonymous, so we go through like painstaking lengths to make sure he's not known.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so normally we just swap stories or whatever, and then it just flows after that. But
Well, the hospital we work at definitely has plenty of crazy patients, crazy stories.
oh yeah,
I feel like I've told you a lot of them, but definitely, I mean, there's also stories of just like, you know, stuff that's happened before the process to get here, or even clinics that I've been in.
like what?
So like I've worked in, well, my dad's a doctor, so I've been in a clinic, like hospitals and clinics. And like even one of my first memories of shadowing my dad, I think I was like 9. And I was carrying his chart, and we'd like go do patient rounds, and you know, patients thought it was cute that I'd be in the room, so no one really minded. But this one patient, he was so mad, dude.
That you were in the room?
Yeah, he was so mad that I was in the room. Just like, you know, immediately berating my dad, and so my dad's like, okay, just step outside for a second. And so I step outside, and you know, my dad does this thing, and then he comes back outside maybe like 10 minutes later, and he's like, yeah, you know, he thought it was funny, which is why he told me, even though I was so young, but he was like, yeah, you know why that patient was so mad? And he was like, yeah, he was driving on the road and getting roadhead by his girlfriend or wife, whatever, and they got in a car accident, she bit.
No
So
way.
he was showing him he was showing him like
Oh my
post-accident
God.
what had happened, and
No way.
he was just mad. He was just mad.
Oh man, I probably would react the same way. That's insane.
That was like one of my first memories of being in a hospital.
You were 9?
I was like 9, 10.
And your dad's like, yeah, his dick just got bit while he was getting head.
I forgot what words he used, but
You did get that from it.
he definitely told me that he was like,
Oh my god.
yeah, that was funny.
That would hurt so bad. That's why you don't do that, man. Why would you do that? That's so stupid.
Yeah, I don't know how common that is. I mean, I'm sure you've heard like horror stories about it, but to actually see that, you know, it's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a lot of other experiences like that.
Have you ever, a little sidebar, have you done it in any crazy places with your girlfriend?
In a
like-
hospital, in like a medical setting?
I mean, Jesus, yeah, to name one, but I mean anywhere. Like, have you done anything like I've never had sex in a car before. I've never done anything like crazy like that.
I don't know, dude.
Have you gotten
I don't think
roadhead
so.
and then gotten your
Oh,
dick
yeah.
bit?
Yeah, she's actually giving me roadhead.
Really?
Yeah.
While you were driving?
Yeah.
Wow, you have confidence in your
But-
driving.
Yeah. I guess it was almost like,
A lot of guys can't even get it up, and you not only are getting it up, but are driving at the same
dude,
time.
one of my friends told me, this kid is in Sweden, he was dating a Swedish girl. And I guess the way this came up is because we landed in airport like 2 hours outside of Sweden, and we landed on like the midsummer day, or like whatever their weekend party is. It's like the warmest day out of the year, the only day where like the sun doesn't set. And he was like fucking smoking, drinking, like he was the driver was putting his head all the way back and like putting the person in the backseat putting eye drops in the other person driving. I was just like, all right, this is how I go.
Right.
Well, at 19, I didn't really care anyways. You know, just no regard for life.
Yeah,
But-
I guess I was kind of similar.
But then I complained about it in the car too, because they were like drinking and shit heavily in the car. And yeah, the driver was like, "Oh no, dude, me and my girlfriend have done it on the road, like while driving." He drives a manual car. It's Sweden. He drives a manual car, and he was saying that he did it on the road with his girlfriend.
That can't be a good time. It can't be comfortable.
I'm
You
like,
can't
how?
be like.
How?
You would have to be so focused on both things that it's like.
I'm still convinced that like.
It sounds like it sounds like some 19-year-old bullshit. But even if it wasn't, you would be going through such great lengths to drive and have sex at the same time.
A manual car. It's not
And
even
do a manual. I mean, bro, it could be automatic, and that's still unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean even automatic, of course, but a manual car, like how?
You
But
can't be enjoying that.
I I don't know, dude.
You just wait. Wait like 20 minutes, bro, at most.
I don't know.
Where are you driving to?
Dude, they were crazy. Midsummer, that was crazy. Yeah, so I got there and it was like this kid named Andrew. He's he was the cheerleader for a national cheerleading squad in Sweden, and yeah, he was dating one of the cheerleaders, and so we stayed with him. And they had this party that was another 2 hours outside of Stockholm, but not like so. Västerås is where we landed. And then we drove into Stockholm, but this was like north of Stockholm, like near the Baltic Sea. I can't remember the name of the body of water, but 2 hours there. So you got to take like a train, a bus, a taxi to get there. Like it's super complicated. We get there and it's just like a party in a barn, and people were going crazy, dude. Everyone was just having sex with each other. Like
Really?
The holiday is like recognized as a national holiday to repopulate Sweden because all three countries, Finland, Sweden, and Norway, have they have like really high suicide rates, and their population is actually diminishing. So
what?
They have a holiday just entitled to them like repopulating.
That's crazy.
And that's basically midsummer. So they just go crazy. Like they do drugs, smoke, drink, and just like have sex like everywhere.
The government's like, please get high and fuck.
And of course, I mean, 19-year-olds take that to be like, you know.
Yeah, go wild.
Yeah, so.
Whereas like the 40-year-olds are like, well, I suppose we could get it under the covers and.
Our assumption is that people from like all those Nordic countries are just
wild.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've kind of heard that too, but that I haven't heard that where they're just like literally in a barn all like fucking.
They had tents. Crazy. So the party was like a disco. They got a DJ in a barn,
That's
and then
crazy.
all these tents outside the barn where they slept and did it, and then, dude, it was still freezing for me and my friend Ricky that we went, and
everyone else was warm though, because they're from.
I mean, they're just like I don't know if they're just showing off because they're like in shorts and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, hottest day of the year, but it's still like fucking 40 degrees.
Oh wow.
So you know, I grabbed everyone's scarf from the barn, and I'm just like trying to bundle up. I was freezing. It's like 4 a.m, and I like had no place to sleep. I fell asleep like on a hay bale for like an hour. And then I found Ricky like at 5, and I'm like, dude, we just gotta go. Like we just gotta go home.
Like this is too much.
Yeah,
It's too
but
much.
we don't speak the language. It's 2 hours outside of, Stockholm where Andrew was. We're staying with Andrew, and we couldn't find him. We couldn't fucking find him. We had no idea where he was at the party. And
he's probably getting high and having sex.
God knows. I don't know. I have no idea. But we couldn't find him. And then we found one of his buddies like at 6 a.m, maybe. One of the 4 kids that we went to the party with. And his buddy was like, hey, you guys want to go home, right? And we're like, yeah, please, dude. We want to go home so bad. And he's like, okay, I'll take you home. But first, you got to steal all this DJ equipment with me.
No.
And so me and Ricky were like, fuck it, dude, whatever.
You want to go home?
We just want to go home.
How did he know you wanted to go home?
Because we couldn't find a place to sleep. Everyone like had assigned tents, or they were fucking in their tents, so we couldn't like sleep in their tents.
So he could just tell.
And we just legit no place to sleep, nowhere to go. Like we couldn't find Andrew. We're just tired. It was like 6 or 7 in the morning. Like,
so this dude, he comes up and asks you in English if you want to steal
all of them spoke
DJ.
English.
Oh, okay.
All the kids and most of the people there speak English, but still, like we don't know where we are. We're 2 hours outside of Stockholm on somebody else's invitation. Like, who do we call for a taxi? What train station do we get on? What bus do we get on? Like, we don't even know the address to their place. So.
And this guy needs 2 extra sets of hands.
Yeah. So we steal all this equipment. Me and Ricky don't give a fuck. We're just carrying whatever, just trying to go home. And so he takes us back. We stop at McDonald's on the way. Ate some McDonald's breakfast.
Did he buy it for you?
I don't even remember.
He should have. He really should have.
I don't even remember if he did.
That's the least he could do. A fucking Egg McMuffin or something. Jesus Christ.
And we get back to his place, and we sleep in his house. And then in the morning, the only thing we wake up to is fucking loud-ass yelling downstairs. And
like argument?
Yeah, and Andrew had come back over, and he was yelling at his friend, and he was like, obviously they're gonna know it's the Americans. They're the only people here that have no connections to anything. So then, yeah, that's what we woke up to, and then we went downstairs, and Andrew's just like, all right, guys, you guys have to lay low for like the next 24 hours until your flight out of here.
Because of the DJ equipment?
Yeah, they knew who it was gonna be, you know. We're like the first people to leave the party. There's a lot of people there, but we're still the first people to leave. And
But what about the other guy?
I don't know, dude. I don't know anything about him. Never kept up with him. Like, I'm sure he's a great guy, I guess.
No, you fucking don't. Well, I hate when people do that. Like, oh yeah, you know, he did all these terrible things, but at heart, he's a really good guy.
Yeah,
it's
he's
like
probably not. But...
he's not a good guy. He's done bad things. Like that's what makes a person bad.
Yeah. That was like Grand Theft Auto, dude. We stole a lot of expensive equipment.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
You're a thief.
So if this podcast ever finds us,
Yeah, you're screwed,
They're
huh?
gonna know.
Someone in Sweden's gonna be like, I knew it! Slam the table and just like go investigate him on.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
You didn't get high at that party?
Maybe. Probably. I don't remember, to be honest. I drank a lot. I didn't really smoke too much back then. I just like drank. You know, at like 19, I just felt invincible, so I could really do any. Oh, I did shrooms there, but not at that party. That was like the next night. We went back to Stockholm and did shrooms with Andrew in the forest of Sweden. Fucking random, dude.
What did you see? Did you see anything
It was just
wild?
like everything was being personified. Like leaves were turning into like eyes,
What?
and the branches were like hands.
Dude, I've never done mushrooms.
I mean, you could tell it's not real. Like it's not like a hallucination.
Yeah.
It's just personifying things.
That would be terrifying if it seemed real.
I think that's more like acid. I've never done acid.
I've done acid. I mean, I only did a little bit, but it didn't like do anything crazy. It just made me feel kind of like good and weird and like very awake.
Yeah.
That's one understated thing about acid. Like I was up all night.
I was up until like at least 5 again the next day, and it was just like distrust with my perception of reality. I also have a thing with drugs where like I try and fight it.
Why?
Like, I don't know. It's just
Just let it happen, man.
that's like, yeah, that's key to like enjoying the experience. And sometimes I try fighting it. So like I was just up trying to like make sure my reality was like, I mean, again, it's perception. It's not like you see different things. I know that the leaves are leaves and they're branches. But it was just like I felt like once, especially going inside the house, I felt like I was in Pee Wee Herman's Funhouse. Like, it didn't feel right. Like I
Didn't he touch little boys or something? So you felt like you're being touched? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh.
Like the house was just like coming to life, you know. Like I felt like the top of the house was just gonna start like moving and talking.
Jesus Christ.
Um,
I feel like I have to try that sometime. That sounds wild.
It's fun. I mean, yeah. So like apparently shrooms grow everywhere.
Oh, in Sweden?
Even no, like well, yeah, in Sweden, but even here, like shrooms
really?
apparently grow everywhere. But
Like hallucinogenic ones.
yeah,
Wow.
those exact ones. Apparently they grow everywhere, but you know either they're just like picked off by people that care to like get rid of it, or it's just really way deep in the forest where like only Oregon and places like that care to like go and find it. But since they're in Sweden, then you know, you just go find it, pick it. And he said that too. He was like, "Oh yeah, I picked these. So he showed us all these kinds.
Dang.
And then he made a sandwich out of it.
Oh yeah, because I mean, aren't Swedish people? Were they Vikings or is that Norway?
I don't know anything about history.
Oh really? Well, I mean, that's who like settled Minnesota is like that kind of like Scandinavian peoples.
Oh yeah.
But I remember one story. They would like Vikings before they would go into battle. They would like take hallucinogenic mushrooms or something, and then they would, you know, they'd just be high as shit and not care about whatever's happening, and they'd just be swinging their shit, you know.
I guess it's good, yeah. Like a good way to do it. No remorse.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. They're crazy.
But then Russians, they like during like I think when the Germans were attacking them, they would give the Russians like, I don't know, something that warmed them up, like beta blockers or something. Is that no nitroglycerin? Nitroglycerin warms you up, doesn't it? Or like,
I guess it's a vasodilator, so probably.
Yeah. But they would
Yeah, I
like
heard
do
that.
that. They would like feed their soldiers like some vodka and like nitroglycerin and other things to warm
Yeah.
up. Like what's that one that like it like breaks the electron chain or whatever and it just generates warmth. I think they give them that too. Like
Oh,
dinitro.
I know what you're
something,
talking
whatever.
about.
You know
I
what I'm
see
talking
that in a
about?
lot of research paper. It, like uncouples the electron
Yeah.
transport chain.
And then it just goes ham. And yeah, and then it's just like generating heat instead of like
It's like
generating
DMSA
energy.
or something. I don't know. There's a few chemicals that do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to study a lot of that in my master's.
You did? You
yeah.
did a master's? Oh.
Pharmacology, toxicology, and
Dang.
microbiology. And speaking of, it was funny, like
How old are you?
20, I'm about to be 28.
28?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of, when I learned like the anticholinergics, like sarin gas and all that, that was really cool to learn from World War II. And that's literally how my professor started it off. He was like, yeah, these are the acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. And like the Germans invented irreversible acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, like sarin and other organophosphates.
To own the Allies.
And that's what they would use like as chemical warfare. Well, so like the Americans, I think carbamates had already been, so the organophosphates are the irreversible ones. The carbamates are the reversible ones.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
So I think it had already been around, but basically like this is what they're giving U.S. troops. They just start giving them the carbamate acetylcholinesterase inhibitors just to competitively inhibit the irreversible ones. So prophylactically, they're just giving you an anticholinergic
Jeez.
and just telling you to go out there.
That's
you know?
crazy.
Like imagine you just get physostigmine just to like
Yeah, just to like hang out for the day.
in case you get
That's
sarin
wild.
poisoning. Like
Damn.
yeah, so it was cool to learn like that form of, and a lot of the mustard gas and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's chemotherapy now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're just taking out the human cells.
Yeah, that's World War II. Like actually,
Back before I got into medicine, I thought chemotherapy was. I just assumed it was like magic, like because I didn't understand anything about it. And I don't like now. It seems so lame to me because it's like, oh, you just take it's just a drug that like kills some cells or whatever.
Yeah.
But before, you know, it was just like, oh yeah, you take this like fairy dust and then it like cures you of all your ailments or something.
when in reality, therapy is so bad for you. Yeah, they're
You're
just
literally just poisoning yourself.
yeah. That's what I learned in my studies, like how.
And then hopefully you're only poisoning the bad stuff more than the good stuff.
Because it's proliferating more rapidly. But yeah, I was pretty surprised to learn that. You know, like even one of the first surgeries I followed of this general surgeon, the anesthesiologist came in and he was like, "You know what this chemical is?" And he was like, "It's curarine." And
Oh yeah, that's the they use that to paralyze baboons and stuff in like the Amazon, right? With
yeah,
like blow darts.
that's what he said. He was like, "This is what your ancestors used on the tip of their bows." And I was
Damn,
like,
and he looked at you and he said it? That's so racist. This is what your savage ancestors used this. It's like,
was
Jesus, dude.
I was surprised at how, at the time, I was like, man, medicine must be barbaric if we're still using this for like anesthesia.
Yeah, actually, though.
But yeah, it's cool to study that type of stuff, and especially when you draw it back like
Like, we don't use cocaine anymore for medical procedures, but we use something similar to it, right? Like,
yeah.
like benzocaine and like other canes.
That was so that same pharmacologist that taught us. I love that guy. I learned so much from him. You know, that was the reason that he did a PhD in pharmacology and toxicology.
Because he liked the cool,
He just
radical type shit.
He was like, so I guess his family was like a bunch of farmers, and they always needed a vet to take care of their animals, and they were giving them a bunch of medications. And he said like how barbaric medications still are.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So that's the reason why he that's the reason why he did his PhD, because he wanted to help be a part of new medications, things that were like less side effects and less barbaric.
Well, and it's crazy, like, one thing that kind of blows my mind is, oh yeah, last year, you know, proton pump inhibitors, the things, you know, OMAPers, all the things you use to suppress, you know, your stomach acid so that you don't have esophageal reflux or whatever, you know, like heartburn, that kind of stuff. A lot of people are on that. And it's like, oh yeah, it's the best thing ever, and there's really no issues with it. Just take it all the time.
Yeah.
And then 1 year later, they're like, okay, we have all these things that we found that mess you up with it. Don't take it for all these things. Like, it's really, you know, really try not to be on it. Jeez, like,
I know.
how about we like
Yeah, like before
temper
like,
expectations a little at
with
first.
impunity, you could take as much as you want.
Yeah.
However much, like however like for 50 years, and then now it's like.
But at the same time, if like the average person was hearing this, we're also saying this with all of this faith that we have in medicine and science behind it too. Like,
Yeah.
because I think the average person doesn't trust the average thing that a scientist says, which is fucking crazy. But we're saying this with the knowledge that, with like full faith in science and medicine.
So while we speak like very negatively, if you actually knew how these medications work, that stuff is it's scrutinized for that exact reason. The first paper I did in my master's was the guy who proposed the electron transport chain theory. I don't know if you've heard this, but he basically, his entire life, he tried to prove this theory, the electron transport chain inside the mitochondria. And it took him like 50 years of his life. Everybody said that he was wrong, like that he wasn't doing his exam properly. His materials were wrong, the method was wrong, like they just scrutinized the shit out of him. And then like some years after he died, we keep doing research and we found that everything he had said was correct.
Oh, sorry, Kevin. Oops.
I forget the name of the scientist. I should probably know.
He's Kevin now.
He, everything he did was right. They give him a Nobel Prize, which doesn't really matter.
Post-mortem.
Yeah, he's dead now.
Jeez. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's kind of how it should be, though. And it kind of is, to be honest.
It is that way. You get scrutinized.
Yeah,
so it's not
hard.
like this medication is just out here for any reason.
No.
For the average person that's listening.
Yeah.
Like, this stuff
and
is
to make
really
it and to make it poignant and like current events, I mean, like I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure the COVID vaccine has been maybe less so than the average medical product to be released, or maybe more so, I don't know, but scrutinized to a crazy degree, and anyone who doesn't trust it because it came out so quick, all the world's researchers stopped what they were doing to work on this. So it's hard to debate, if you've gotten other vaccines and you trust those, then it's like, why do you have any different thought process for this one?
Yeah.
Is my kind of.
I mean, I could understand why this vaccine, of any vaccine, you can have your speculations over, but at the same time, you're right. People like Fauci, dude. Fauci has written like 70% of clinical medicine.
Yeah, didn't you say that your dad had books and then like a bunch of them were written by Fauci? Or was that somebody else?
In his bookshelf inside his office, he has all these clinical, like encyclopedias of clinical medicine, dude. Thousands of pages, just series after series. And Fauci is authored on a bunch of those. In fact, a lot of clinical medicine is due to not just him. I mean, it's obviously other researchers, but Fauci included in all these researchers that are still right now in the process of making this vaccine. I have to trust them. How much medicine can I know over them who have been practicing for decades? They're at the forefront of medicine. And the other thing is, like, I got the vaccine. And I got it because if how can I advocate for a patient to get a vaccine that I'm not getting?
Right.
I have to have as much trust in the system as anybody. I am a part of that system.
Well, and the nice thing is that a lot of people don't get to experience is that because we're part of the system, we see it like curing people from the brink of like death and stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like the average person doesn't ever see that, and then they like just enter the hospital and they're like, hopefully you make me better. I've heard terrible things about, science and the hospital over the last few years. You know what I mean? Whereas we see it, we just saved like 80 people or whatever.
Yeah, and for us, it's almost like we're conferring more. At least my thought is it's almost for other people more so than it is for us. Because yes, we are in contact with COVID patients all the time.
So we're probably like immune to it because we've already gotten it.
It could be. I think the immunity. Well, so that stuff still has. We have yet to know like how long immunity lasts and all this. But if there's anybody who's going to transmit it, it's us, and it's good that we do get a vaccine to try and protect other people from infecting them. Because I think I'm a bigger risk for infecting other people. Since you're right, I haven't had any symptoms since the start of this. There's a very good chance that we could be asymptomatic carriers, but we would never know.
Oh, that's true.
So, rather than for me, if I have had it, if I haven't had it, okay, but I could transmit it to so many more people.
What was that one historical case? I'm glad I'm asking you historical questions. It's like the tuberculosis Mary or something. Typhoid Mary, yeah. It's like putting typhoid in the ice cream and stuff. That's great.
Yeah, she's making food.
We're little typhoid Marys. No, you ready? Trivia question. You ready?
No.
Too bad. The Comanche Indians.
Oh, I already don't know. How am I supposed to know who the hell that is?
The Comanche Indians were like, they were around like the Texas area. This is kind of around where you are. Not really. The kids. This has to do with anatomy. You might know it. The
I
kid.
still don't know anatomy.
So they
wrong on two fronts.
Stop. they would drop a buffalo or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then the kids would run up and they would dig into the animal right away, and they would grab this specific organ and eat it because it was the best part of the animal. What organ is that?
What organ would you immediately want to eat? Like, you waste no time.
As a Comanche Indian, not as the average. Not like you would.
I mean, if they're rushing to it, it would have to be something that's like time sensitive. Or
Don't think about it that way. Like, they've opened it up,
Or is
and
it
it's
just
like
because
there.
it's so delectable?
It's so delectable. That's my
They
point.
just have to get to
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
Probably something super fatty then, right? I don't know, like the gallbladder.
Hey, you got it.
Yeah.
The gallbladder. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like apparently because it was like salty and like fatty.
That
yeah,
fat,
which is the
yeah.
two. I mean, you think about it, like what are the things that they get the least of probably, and that's
Yeah.
the thing they probably want the most, right? So yeah, the saltiness of it because it's got bile salts, and then like the fattiness because it's got cholesterol, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy you can break stuff down like that. Like I bet people are gonna like look back at us today and be like, you know, what are the things that those people probably wanted most? And it was probably like, oh, it was probably just like cuddling and like, you know, talking to somebody. You know what I mean? Or you know, I don't know. I'm just making shit up, but you know what I'm saying? Or some kind of like spiritual something. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what they're gonna look.
It's definitely not gallbladders, but.
No, now we have like French fries that probably have the same amount.
And you can
of
have and like you can eat that at any time, any of the day.
Yeah.
Especially in New York, at least like where I'm from, in the suburbs, you have to like kind of plan it out the next day. You know, if you want some fries
Where,
with like
in the part of New
gravy
York
on it
here?
or something, huh?
Like where you're currently living?
No, where I used to be from,
Oh,
Minnesota, but like
okay.
in the suburbs. But here, I mean, you
It's
could
so
at any
easy.
time of the day. Yeah, New York. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, dude.
And it's like easy and cheap, like, and everything's telling you to do it all the time. Like it's crazy.
Here, I've noticed that all the foods that are under $10, because we're on a student loan like type financial status, and it's like everything that's under $10 is horrible for you. It's all the fried shit. It's like it's a lot harder to be healthy in New York. It's expensive, and I know that's true everywhere, but where I was living, like in the South, it's much easier to eat healthy and cheap. Everything's usually things are starting as expensive in New York, or they're more expensive in New York. So,
and it's easy to judge all these people we see with like diabetes and like
Yeah.
super fat. Like what we saw someone with a BMI of like 60 today, 68 or something.
back to back day.
That's
Day
fucking
before was
crazy.
wound clinic, which is just diabetic ulcers,
Yeah.
and then today is bariatric and endocrinology. So just the worst perception of
Jesus.
like people's health.
Right. But at the same time, they got all those cheap foods, and then they get used to those cheap foods, so it's
Yeah.
like, then that's all they eat,
It's really difficult here to, like going to Trader Joe's takes me.
What's the effort, man?
It's like
That's
a
why I don't go.
30, 40-minute train ride, and then you buy your groceries. You got to carry those on the train.
It's such a waste of time.
30, 40 minutes back, and then we really only have the time to meal prep like 1 to 2 days out of the week. Mm-hmm. I suppose you can make time for anything, but we are a little bit more pressured to have a more productive routine than most in our lifestyle and our career choice. And even then,
for sure. Yeah, even then.
it's hard to be responsible with your eating choices.
That's why there's a lot of like fat doctors and stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
funny.
definitely a thing.
It's funny. I mean, my dad's like, there's only 2 types of cardiologists.
Oh God.
Those that are morbidly
I love
obese
this.
and those that are pencil thin. There's no in between.
Really? That's what he says.
Like some of them are as obese as the patients that have had bypasses, stents, everything, and then there's like the pencil thin ones.
That's hilarious. All right. Well, I think that was pretty good.
Is that 30 minutes?
Yeah, it's got to be close. 30 on the dot, son.